Welcome back to Stuff About Money They Did Not Teach You in School. I am Xavier Angel, certified financial planner, and I'm joined by my co-host, Erik Garcia, certified financial planner. And before we get started, I think I need to reintroduce myself to
because you've been
everyone.
MIA. You've been missing.
Yeah, I've been out of the loop for the past 2 to 3 weeks. It's been a long year for me. I've been over the last 8 to 9 months working on the house from our Hurricane Ida damages, which
could be 1 year soon, huh?
Yeah, almost 1 year. So in addition to that, and dealing with the contractors and summer with my 11-year-old being home, I'm finally back. Today was her first day of school.
So, I hardly recognize you, man. I saw your wife post this morning pictures of your daughter and your giant 80-pound or 150-pound dog with first day of school clothes on. And I was actually waiting for her to post your picture, first day back at work picture. But
I don't know who was more excited to be back at school this morning. Was it Grace or was it me? I walked her to class, got back in the car, and it felt like an elephant had been lifted off my shoulders. I was excited to be coming into the office. So I'm glad to come back. Erik,
it's good to see you, Xavier. It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. Welcome back, brother.
Great to be seen and great to be with you. Hey, we've got a special guest today. You want to go ahead and introduce our guest today, Erik?
Special. Bradley is special. It's a buddy of mine, Bradley Flowers. Let me tell you a quick story about Bradley Flowers before I introduce him. So Bradley has been podcasting for Bradley. How long have you been podcasting? You're like one of the OG podcasters.
2017.
2017.
Yeah, but I had a radio show in high school that I did. Did you know that?
No, dude.
Yeah,
so you've been at
high school today.
Huh? You've been at this longer than Joe Rogan.
I don't know about that, but I have a lot less money than he does.
That's all right.
Speaking of money, stuff about money.
Stuff about money. There you go.
Hey, I'll tell you something funny, Xavier. Not to grab this conversation, but on the kids going back to school thing, I'll tell you who's more excited. You're more excited.
Yeah, so I'm loving it.
My brother-in-law has a professional. My Louisiana people appreciate this. My brother-in-law has a professional cornhole set up at his house. It's very nice. And about every other Sunday, there's about 20 or so guys out there throwing cornhole, and the ladies are doing their stuff by the pool. And simultaneously, all at once on Sunday, school started Monday here. On Sunday afternoon, everybody's phone went off, and it was the school reminding them that school started, and the dads all at once collectively started laughing and said, "Oh, we're not going to forget. We'll be early."
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Well, before you tell us a little bit about yourself, where are you from?
I'm originally from Atmore, Alabama, which is about an hour outside of Mobile, and I currently live in Saraland, which is a suburb of Mobile.
Okay, so you're right around the corner from us.
Right around the corner. I was there 2 weeks ago. I had coffee with my buddy Erik.
You were here. What side of the tunnel do you live on, Bradley? Because that's the difference between 3 hours of travel time.
Pretty much, yeah. So my office is on the downtown side of the tunnel, and I live on the other side of the tunnel, but I don't have to go through the tunnel to get home, fortunately.
Oh, man, that's miserable. So what I was going to say before Bradley took over host. No, that's okay. It's hard. Once you're a podcast host, you're kind of always, it's hard to be a guest. I get it.
I feel like Xavier would have really appreciated that story, though.
Yeah, I did.
That was a good story, man. In fact, Bradley posted his first day back at work post a few days ago, and that god awful shirt that you wear with the name of all the hurricanes that hit.
I think I was wearing that the day we went to coffee.
You did? Do you have how many shirts like that do you have?
Well, that's the only one of that one I have, but that's a local company. They make Mobile Southeast themed, Gulf Coast themed shirts, and that's one of my favorite shirts because it makes me look skinny. So I wear it anytime I'm gonna take pictures. It was risky wearing it to New Orleans. I'll be honest. About halfway there, I was like, I didn't really think this shirt through.
I felt triggered. So the shirt says Camille, Frederick. Frederick must have been y'all storm. Danny, Ivan, and Katrina. Yeah.
This old lady at Publix gave me there's this lady that works at Publix that's not very nice. And she was checking me out the other day, and she said, "You weren't even alive when Camille hit." And I'm like, there's so many good things I could say in response, but I was just like, yeah, okay.
All right. So towards the end of last year, when I was looking at launching a new podcast, I knew I wanted to do something specifically about money, but I couldn't think of a good name. So I think you and I were messaging Bradley, and I'm like, oh man, like I need a good name for a podcast. And Bradley, I'm going to give you credit where credit's due. You're the one who said, just call it Stuff About Money. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So
I forgot about that.
yeah, no, you did that, man. So I'll give you 10% of every sponsorship dollar that we make from this podcast episode.
Have your people call my people.
Yeah, which is zero. So Bradley, you and I know each other through we both have investments in insurance agencies, different ones. You're an owner over there in Mobile. You know, I have a ownership interest in an insurance agency here, but that's not exactly how we connected. We first connected through podcasting. We're part of a little group of podcasters, pretty much in the insurance space. I might be the oddball out because my audience is not insurance people, but that's how we connected, and we became fast friends because we just have a lot in common. So glad to have you on the show, man.
Absolutely.
Anything we need to know about you before we kind of, I would say before I would introduce you as an insurance agency owner, I would probably introduce you as an entrepreneur. Because
I'm careful to say that publicly because I don't want people to take it as like, oh, well, I shouldn't do business with him. Like, we have a very well-run insurance agency, but I'm a business/marketing guy who one of my businesses that happens to be my main business is an insurance agency. And that's the insurance agency world. Insurance world is the vertical that I play in. And the reason we became friends is because it's not often I talk about insurance land, which is everything I do in the industry. It's not often I get somebody in insurance land that's this close to me. And it's good because we deal with a lot of the same things. And, you know, you're talking to somebody in Ohio, they have no idea what you're dealing with.
Zero idea.
Now, for clarification, you know, that other business that you have, that entrepreneurship that you have, it is something that runs side by side with the insurance business, though. Is that that's an accurate statement, correct?
Everything that I do, and I only have like 3 businesses that I run. Everything runs parallel to the other ones, and that's a mistake, I think, because like us, you know, entrepreneurs. I mean, you get ideas, you know, every 30 seconds, and sometimes I think people go, not to get too geometrical, but I think sometimes people go too perpendicular to what they're currently doing, and I think that especially your first 3 or 4 businesses I call them projects. They have to run parallel to each other. In other words, they have to be somewhat related. Otherwise, you're like, hey, I'm running a dog racing track and I'm also giving financial advice and I have a lawn care business. They're too different. I feel like you have to start, they're very close to each other. And then as you get more successful, you can kind of venture outside and, hey, let's do something out of left field. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that because I was telling Xavier this morning, because you and I, we talked about this years ago, this idea about like side hustles, that too many entrepreneurs start these side hustles that are nowhere near adjacent to their main business. And it becomes a problem because you can't serve 2 masters. When I first started the insurance agency back in, my family's got a long history in the insurance agency, but when I jumped back into the insurance space in 2010, after being out of it for a while, the financial planning and the investment and the insurance business were able to run side by side, partially because it was size. And then what eventually happened is they both became so separate from each other. They became perpendicular to where now I'm, you know, outside of the strategy and the visioning and some management of the insurance side, I leave all that to my business partner and the staff to operate.
Well, and what happens too is, from a client perception standpoint, you know, if I'm an insurance agent and I'm also selling It Works, which is like the cheesiest of cheesy MLM, right? The perception of that to the client is not great. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it's either A, well, I don't want to work with this person because they're busy doing this other thing, or B, maybe they're not as successful as I thought because they're having to do this other thing. Versus when they run parallel to each other, you get into a situation where, you know, I do my main second business is the Insurance Guys podcast, which is a business now. It almost has the opposite effect where people are like, hey, I want to do business with the guy who's teaching other insurance agents things. Why do I want to deal with these people when I can just go to this person? And that happens a lot. So I think that's, I mean, and you know, every
From a
situation's different, but I think that can happen.
Right. And from someone on the outside looking in, you become more of an authority in that because you've got those two parallel businesses running side by side. You know what you're talking about because you're training these guys, you're doing the marketing with these guys. And so that's what Eric and I were talking about, you know, that side hustle. You know, when you have that as a business owner, when you have that side hustle, make those parallel, run them side by side. Something, you know, you can't have, like you said, the lawn care company over here and a financial planner over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the podcast isn't, we don't monetize the podcast, but I'm gonna tell you, it's like a part-time job. I mean, there's a lot of work.
People have no idea, man.
It goes a lot to, but like to your point, like this is 100% adjacent to financial planning and giving financial advice. And you know, we one of the things that sets us apart as a firm is we really emphasize education. And I believe that if people are more empowered and more knowledgeable about money and different things about money, stuff about money, then they're going to make better financial decisions, which is going to set them up better for long-term success than, I don't know, picking the right mutual fund.
And what happens too, like you would be shocked, and you deal with it, you hear about it less now than when I first started doing social media a few years ago. But what happens is you get these people that are like, why do I want to do this podcast or do social media where I'm giving all my air quotes secrets away? Because then people aren't going to pay for them. And that's such a scarcity mindset that what happens when you do that is if somebody, you know, financial advising to me is all about trust. That's like the number one thing I have to have with you as a financial advisor is about trust. And what happens is by you giving all of this advice out for free to the world, and you don't even, not only are you like not charging for it, you don't even know who's listening to it. Right.
Right.
It makes people trust you more because if this guy's willing to do this, I can trust this guy. And then also, hey, if he's putting this stuff out, what does he know that he's not putting out? You know what I mean? So it just, there's a whole lot of elevation that goes on by doing something like this.
Right.
Yeah. There's authority and credibility. 100%.
So Bradley, let me ask you a question that we ask all of our guests once they come on. What is one thing about money that you wish you would have known 20 years ago?
Probably. So I took an accounting class in college, in community college, and I absolutely hated it. I was a college golfer. I majored in eligibility. Whatever got me eligible to play golf is what the classes I took. And I took an accounting class. And I remember these terms, ledger and bank and P&L and balance sheet is like, this is the most boring thing in the world. And didn't really learn budgeting, even not just from a business sense, even a personal sense. And now that I'm in the business owner, those terms are sexy to me. I mean, Eric, you know this about me. I run my P&L every single day. I want to know exactly where I am, and just proper budgeting and that sort of thing. And my wife helped me a ton with it because she's like a CFO mindset and very good with money. So just budgeting and things like that, not spending money until you have a little bit left over. No, we need to save this amount and then we have our spending money, you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So like being intentional with your cash flow.
Intentional. Correct.
That's the big thing is just people just lack intention with their money. So two things on what you just said. Number one, I didn't know you actually played. Do you play golf? Would you say you played golf in college or you competed golf? Is golf something you compete at or play?
Yeah. I was on the golf team in college. I played the same. So I played junior college, only because I didn't take the ACT. I was a C student. My grades weren't good enough to go D1. I probably could have played D1 at like a lower tier college, but I played junior college, Faulkner State Community College, which is actually the same junior college that Bubba Watson, who's now on the PGA Tour or Live Tour now, I guess, played at. And we had the same coach. Actually,
you did say that the other day. You had the same coach as Bubba Watson.
We had the same coach, so that was kind of neat. Yeah. So I did that for like a year and a half, 2 years. And I actually got better after I left junior college and started playing just like amateur stuff. And I played one pro tournament and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So I play now, but only on the Oculus.
I was about to say something most people won't know is that Bradley's like, you're like number one, right? In like Oculus golf land.
No, I'm 41st. I
41st.
dropped. I got up to number 2, but the difference between number 2 and number 3 was like less than 1 point handicap. And the difference between me and the number 1 guy was like 6 points. And so it was like, I would literally have had to, it would not be a good money decision to like, cause I would have to quit my job and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm not worried about this.
That's too perpendicular to everything else, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Unless I could start streaming. So that I had these 2 young guys in the office when I first started doing that. Like, you need to stream it. You can make money. I'm like, I don't care. It's just, it was a fun thing that I do. And I'm super competitive. And you know, it's
how many people, hold on. I don't have an Oculus, so I'm speaking ignorantly here. So like, how many people play Oculus golf? You're 41st out of how many?
I was like 2 million on there.
And this is like worldwide?
Yeah.
You're 41st out of 2 million.
Yeah.
There's a business opportunity.
So here's the thing is like there's a lot of non-golfers on there. So if you know how to actually, so a big part of golf is knowing how to score. So a lot of people can hit the ball pretty good, but they don't know how to actually get it in the hole and make a score.
Which is the point of golf.
Putting and chipping and that sort of, yeah. So and that was the part of my actual game that was good back when I played. And so if you actually have a little bit of golf know-how, you're already significantly better than most of the people on there. Cause a lot of people on there have never played and they don't, you know, like I had this one guy on there, he was like making fun of me because I was curving the ball. And I'm like, well, you don't understand. Like if you've got a pin that's back left and you curve it from right to left, it's easier because you have more green to work. There's stuff like that.
So what you're telling us is that we shouldn't be that impressed with you being second or 41st.
No, not at all.
That's not very impressive. Not at all. It's not as impressive as your background. If you're not watching this podcast, you need to go on YouTube and check out Bradley's background because it is far more impressive than him being 41st in Oculus golf. Back to budgeting.
I don't know about that.
I think it's pretty cool, dude. So budgeting, here's something interesting about budgeting. Budgeting is something, it's kind of, I'm going to say throwaway in that everyone knows they need it. No one really wants to talk about it. No one really wants to do it. And people think that if you have money that you really don't need a budget anymore. The more and more I do this financial planning thing, the more people I talk to, it's interesting to me that the people who have the most money are the ones who value their budget the most.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Because I mean, I look at it like, man, when I was a captive agent, I was making more money than I am now as far as take home goes.
So for our listeners, real quick, a captive agent is someone who represents just like one company.
Yeah, like so I work for a corporation.
Yeah.
I work for a corporation now. I own my own business. And of course, with owning your own, I mean, I'm reinvesting. I probably could pay myself, but I don't.
Well, you've got the salaries and everything else that comes along with it. So
my take home was more, but I feel like I do better now as far as like what's left over and that sort of thing. Because when you start a business, man, and I started this business with no money, no investors, no, other than my wife. And when you have to watch every dollar or you're you got 3 people out there that had 2 employees day one that I was responsible for. And so, when you have to watch every dollar like that, you get a lot better at it than if you're just willy-nilly, you know what I mean?
They're just out there spending money to be spending.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like the other day I was thinking about, there was something I wanted to buy. I'm not going to say what it is, but it was something I wanted to purchase back in those days. And I didn't do it because I was like, it costs too much. And it was only $500. And I'm like, dude, why couldn't I afford that back then? It was because I was like, or it wasn't it was an investment I wanted to make. And I was like, I didn't have the money to do it because I was spending like crazy. So.
Yeah. Certain businesses grind, man. You said you had 2 employees you're responsible for. The first thing I thought of was like, sounds like kids. I've got 3 kids I'm responsible for. I can't go spend $500 on something that I want right now.
Kids, marriages, So Bradley, Eric, what would you guys, for a couple who's getting married, what would you guys tell them about budgeting? What is the most important thing when it comes to budgeting for newlyweds? Because this is a question that I've been getting a lot lately.
I'm going to give my answer first because I know Eric's is going to be better. I'm a strong proponent of joint checking accounts. However, I know a lot of financial advisors disagree with that. However, that's not my answer, but at least doing your planning of your finances together, treat it like one thing, not separate things. That would be my biggest advice. Me and my wife did that, and we did the joint checking account thing. And I'm not going to say I was against it, but I had no opinion on it. And I think we have a much stronger marriage today because we did that. And she can help me control my spending. We have what we call the Bradley alert on our credit card. Every time more than $50 is spent, it notifies her. Like, what'd you buy on Amazon for $64?
You could buy a lot at $45 and never get alerted, and then wake up at the end of the month, have a really big credit card.
I bought her, so I buy these hats that I wear from a company called Holtz Leather, and they're based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And I bought her a custom cutting board, you know, those that the ladies like to do their charcuterie and stuff on, with our name on it. And the day we got married, for Mother's Day last year. And she texted me and she's like, "Why are you ordering your hats on our personal credit card?" I was like, "It's a Mother's Day present." She's like, "Oh, carry on."
Get some fancy, some charcuterie. Y'all getting fancy in Sarah Land, huh?
We love it. I love to do charcuterie, finger food, heavy hors d'oeuvres. That's my food, brother. I will eat that. Yeah. I will blow a calorie counting diet.
So I'm gonna pull you guys back in.
Sorry.
A quick second.
All right.
Hey, you guys are podcasters. You got.
Do I have to answer? Am I supposed to answer a question? What was the question?
Not yet, because I want to go back to something that Bradley had said. That joint account builds that relationship, and I've seen that in a lot of couples, to where when they don't have those joint accounts, you know, that's where a lot of arguments come from, because people just don't know what's being spent, where money's going, what's coming out. So I do think that is a great idea, to have that joint account.
Well, the number one cause of divorce in America is financial arguments.
Right.
So if you can go ahead and plant some sort of seed in the beginning to potentially prevent that, why wouldn't you?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I've actually talked about this a lot in the last podcast show, Building Us, that I did with Dr. Matt Morris, the couples counselor, and he would say that money is not necessarily the leading cause of divorce. What he would say is money is the fuel to the other arguments that lead to divorce, and money's kind of that ever present thing that's always running in the background. We can never get away from it. Never get away from it. It impacts just about everything. I would actually say this. Matt and I actually did a podcast specifically on checking accounts, and should you or should you not join checking accounts. And I was 100% in the past an advocate for having joint checking accounts. I'm not so passionate about it, but to your point, I think the most important thing is transparency. You can have separate. In fact, I don't have a problem having two separate accounts, because sometimes, you know, you might want to surprise your wife with a charcuterie board and you don't want her to know about it. So one of the things Matt and I talked about, kind of the consensus was, you don't have to have a joint account necessarily, but you have to be rowing in the same direction.
I agree.
It's like, Bradley, if you and I decide to start a new business together, and we each bring let's say we each bring $50,000 to the table, and we have our first business meeting. And it goes something like this. All right, I got 50,000, you got 50,000. Go ahead and put together your marketing plan. I'll put together my marketing plan, and we'll just start spending. That would, most people would say that is the stupidest approach to starting a business. You got to pull your money together because you're working towards a common goal.
It's kind of like, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but yet that's how people treat marriage. My account, your account, I have an income, you have an income, you spend, I spend, and then we'll figure out where we're headed after that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I saw a meme the other day that's so true. And it said, when I was a kid and I watched Mrs. Doubtfire, I used to think that Sally Field was such a terrible mother for not letting Robin Williams host that birthday party. And now I realize what a screw up Robin Williams was for hosting that party and how wrong it was.
So much money.
And so much money, and the parenting aspect of it. Like, the kid didn't
Yeah.
deserve to have a birthday party.
Right.
You know, he has a freaking
We can't.
throw down birthday party with horses in the house.
Yeah, you can't encourage poor behavior and
Exactly.
spend that kind of money on a birthday party.
And I want to clarify, like, I'm no financial whiz by any means whatsoever. My wife I'm an infant compared to her financial knowledge. Like, she's the fuel behind that, but I just go along.
So here's what I'll say. You say you're not a whiz, but you run your P&L, your profit and loss statement for your business regularly. So number one pillar of financial security is know where your money is and where it's going. So your P&L is purely, where's my money going? Money coming in and money coming out. So you keep tabs of where your money's going and where it is. The second pillar of financial security is plan where you want your money to go. You budget, you talk about being intentional about where you're spending your money. Third pillar is squash debt. I'm going to imagine the fact that you said you started your business without any other money, just kind of you and being responsible for two people. You didn't go out and borrow a bunch of money to start your business. Number four, save for tomorrow. We haven't talked about savings, but that's putting money away for whether it's retirement or for another investment in the future. And then number five is give to others. So, like, those are the 5 pillars of financial security. So you might not be a financial whiz, but you're doing a lot of pretty good stuff right now.
Well, I'll add something to that I'm not scared to do, that I think a lot of business owners is hiring out, outsourcing, and delegating when it's called for. So I just hired a fractional CFO because I recognize that there's things about this that I don't know, and it would be better to have that other set of eyes. And I get really emotional when it comes to spending money. Like, even if something makes total sense, let's say I'm making a big purchase for my business, right? Or even personally, something makes total financial sense. I've got the money. It's not going to hurt me but whatever. I still get a little bit emotional about it, and not visibly emotional, but I still get emotional about it.
Right.
I still have that gut, that feeling you get when the money leaves your account, And so one of the reasons I hired the CFO was because she knows my finances inside and out, has helped me reclassify some things to help get my EBITDA up and all that kind of stuff. And I can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And she, number one, doesn't tell me what I want to hear, but number two says, yes or no, you can do that. Or, hey, if you get rid of this thing, you know what I mean? So having that expert, and then also I run my P&L every day. I love doing it. I actually just outsourced that to my bookkeeper, where she's running it and sending it to me. And I'm still helping out some, because I recognize that, hey, I'm spending, I think one thing business owners and people in general struggle is they get too wrapped up in the things they like to do, and that prevents them from being productive. It's not productive for me to sit there for an hour and go through my P&L. There's other things I can do to help advance the business forward. So being able to delegate and know when it's okay to bring experts in.
And that's the same as far as, looking at budgeting and personal financial planning. Delegate that. Go out there and find that advisor, that certified financial planner that's going to help you to make those decisions. I like that. That's great. So
before you move off that, let me say one thing. One thing, because I think this is really, really important. That about you hiring a fractional CFO. You're probably, I would say, more business savvy than the average person out there. You're paying somebody to do a job that you probably have sufficient knowledge and competency to do, but yet you still pay someone to do it because you value that expertise, and you recognize that, hey, I'm going to pay money for something that I could probably do myself, but it's going to actually advance me. It's like the people who pay for a housekeeper or pay to cut or have their grass cut. Like, you could do that on your own. Why do you do that? Because I find my time more valuable. And this one other thing before I make my point, you value the thought partnership of your fractional CFO. Hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And I have a conversation oftentimes with clients and prospects, like, well, what does a certified financial planner do? We talk about all the benefits that we do. And I said, what are the hidden values that I bring to the table, particularly for business owner clients, is thought partnership. Like, what do you mean by that? The amount of conversations that I have with people to think through financial decisions that have pretty big financial consequences. You can't put a dollar amount on that. And you can't like, you can't wrap that conversation up and say this is what I do. It's the conversation about, should I start this business or not start that business, or should I spend money on this expenditure or that expenditure, and just kind of thinking through, and then you even coming up to the conclusion without your fractional CFO having to tell you what to do, because you've thought through that process. And that's a huge, I would say that's a secret value. We talked about earlier about podcasting and giving away ideas. Yeah, we talk about someone could listen to my podcast and probably manage their finances okay. But the stuff that you can't get is that thought partnership stuff that is so personal to you, because finances are personal. And I just want to stop on that and focus on that and say, man, congratulations to you for saying, you know what, I'm going to pay people to do things that I'm competent of doing, but I recognize that they're adding value to the overall endeavor.
Well, I'll tell you too, the best advice is from people who are unbiased to your situation and aren't emotionally connected to it. If you can get some sort of advisor in any facet of your life or business that they know your situation, but are not emotionally or physically vested, that's the best advice you can get. That's the advice you need, in my opinion. So for me to have a CFO that knows my finances, but is not necessarily biased or emotionally invested, because when you get emotions involved and money involved in things, views get clouded, whether intentionally or not intentionally. And to me, that's the benefit of having, somebody like you guys is I know you're going to shoot it straight to me. I know my CFO is going to tell, like we made a hire that was a good hire, a very good strategic hire, and we didn't have room in the payroll. And I asked like 3 business owners. Every one of them said yes. Always make the hire, even if there's not room in the payroll. We had money in the bank, but there wasn't room in what we had budgeted towards payroll. So I sit down with the CFO, and she's like, well, and I knew as soon as she started pushing back a little bit, I was like, she's the right one, because I had other people who told me I want to hear. And then we ended up at the conclusion of, hey, yes, we're still going to make this hire.
Yeah.
But it was like, let's look at this from a financial sense, not from a emotional sense.
Intentionality.
Yes. 100%.
Intentionality. Decisions should be made with intention and with thoughtfulness.
Absolutely.
So, Bradley,
Xavier, carry on.
I'm a carry on. And one of our, there's so many different things that we could ask, so many, questions that we have for you. But in wrapping up, I've got one more thing for you.
Sure.
Eric and I now are working with a lot of millennials. In addition to being in the South, everyone now is shopping insurances and trying to figure out what's the best route to go. Who should I go with? In your opinion, what should someone be looking for when they're out there looking for insurance, whether it's auto insurance or homeowner insurance or business insurance? What are some of the qualities that they should be looking for?
Are you talking about like qualities of an agent, Xavier, or like qualities or characteristics of like coverage?
In an agent, because I think, I can go to Bradley, and Bradley's going to pretty much have the same stuff that Eric is going to have and that Tom is going to have. And so, what should I be looking at when I'm going and sit down with an agent?
So largely insurance is a commodity. Okay. Now, us that are in the business, we know that there's vast differences in coverages and policies and carriers and that sort of thing. But as far as the general public is concerned, insurance is a commodity. I would look for, if you're a business owner, I would look for an agency that has a niche in whatever business you're in. If you're a real estate investor, our agency is going to be pretty good for you. If you are a professional unicyclist, we're probably not going to be the fit for you, right? If you're lawn care, we don't like lawn care. We're not going to be. Find someone who specializes. If you're If your meniscus is torn, you're going to go to an orthopedic who specializes in that area of the body, right? That analogy may not have been exactly right, but you're going to go to a specialist. So find somebody that specializes in that. From the personal standpoint, find someone who has the things that you want. If you are the type of agent or the type of client who likes your agent to see you in person and you go to their office and you sit down and that's what you need to get to gain the trust, find someone who's willing to do that, who has an agency set up like that. If you want things quick and over the phone, find someone who appeals that. If you want someone that you're going to be able to get in touch with someone 24 hours a day, no matter what's going on, there's agencies that fit that. The one piece of advice I would give you is be very, very, very careful when it comes to buying insurance online and doing it yourself. And that's not me being the insurance agent who demonizes direct to consumer like a lot of us do. I have products that I sell direct to consumer online through my agency. But if somebody needs something, there's an expert on the other end of that can answer the question. So that would be my advice. Find someone who fits what you are looking for. We write a lot of millennials in this agency, and sometimes they'll leave us and then they'll come back because they'll say, we rely heavily on text message. We do a lot of communication through text messages. My office phone rings exponentially lower than a lot of agencies our size. And it's because we text, and they'll come back and we ask them why they came back, because I can just text you guys and you'll take care of it. That's what those people want. Right. Mm-hmm. So just finding something that fits you is important. And then more specifically, if you are in an area like the Gulf Coast, Florida, the coastal Carolinas, California, Michigan, where there's just weird insurance stuff going on, whether it's catastrophic type stuff or that sort of thing, you need an agent in that area. You're not going to be able to go to your agent in Nebraska and have them write an insurance policy on your beach house in Biloxi, Mississippi, or Gulf Shores, Alabama. You're not going to be able to do it because they're going to write it incorrectly. It's probably not going to have wind coverage and that sort of thing. Just like I would not try to buy a policy or write a policy for someone in California. It's not going to be done correctly. You have to find someone who specializes in that area. So that would be the one caveat I would say to that.
So I'm hearing you say that, and one of the things, as I'm hearing you say that, you should see your insurance provider or your insurance agent no different than any other advisor, right? Your CPA or your financial planner. Interview people, find someone who you can relate to, who you can trust, who you feel is going to serve you.
We're all going to be within 10% of each other price wise, maybe even tighter than that. Like people go out and they get a quote from everybody under the sun. And I'm like, dude, it's all going to be, you need to find somebody who you like, who fits what you need, because the price is just the price is the price. It's going to be about the same no matter what.
And I think that's important in today's environment that we're in. I don't do the insurance. And when we talk insurance, I'm talking the property and casualty, homeowners, business insurance, and what have you. That's not an area that I'm well versed in, but I hear the stories. Mm-hmm. And I keep telling people, you've got to find an agent that you're comfortable with. Go out and shop it and find it, not for price, but for an agent. Hey, you going to say something, Eric?
Look at Google reviews.
Google reviews. Yeah.
Facebook reviews can lie. Google reviews never lie.
Google reviews are strong, 100%.
And
yeah, I was gonna say a couple of things. One is I want to buy property in Saraland just so I can hire Bradley as my insurance guy because I like him.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
What are property values like in Saraland?
I used to know this.
Cheaper than Gulf Shores for sure.
Cheaper than Gulf Shores. Probably average home values probably 170 a square foot, something like that. That's about what they're going for.
I bet you the insurance is cheaper than it is in New Orleans.
It's exponentially cheaper, but not by much. So price wise, it's probably closer than you think, but there's more options. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But it's like we had a big prospect that we ended up closing, big account, especially if you're listening to this and you own a business and you pay a lot in insurance, a lot being more than $50,000 a year. And you're of the mindset of, hey, I'm going to shop my insurance every year. That is effectively accomplishing the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish, because what happens, especially with these bigger policies, there's not that many carriers that are going to take your account. And what happens is the same 2 or 3 underwriters see your deal every single year. Well, guess what happens? The underwriter a lot of times gets a percentage of that commission. Okay. Well, what's going to happen is if the same 2 or 3 underwriters are seeing your account every single year, they know if they get it, they're only going to keep it 1 year. They're not going to work as hard to get it. Therefore, they're going to say, we're going to make it worth our time. If we get this, you're going to get a higher rate versus picking an agent or picking a carrier, sticking with that carrier 2 or 3 years. And then let's look at moving it. That's a whole lot better.
That goes back to your point. Yeah, that goes back to your point about hiring the right insurance person, the person you can connect with, that you can trust.
We had an account that came to us that had been at 3 other agencies before us 3 years in a row. And I had that conversation with the owner. We wrote it, and the underwriter literally said, "Oh my God, nobody's ever renewed this account. It's good luck," or whatever. We wrote it, and it just renewed for the 3rd time because we had that conversation and we got that client. And guess what? They're paying a lot less over time than what they would have paid. So finding that trusted advisor and just trust them, just go with it. If they screw up, leave, but don't leave just looking for a lower price because you're actually hurting yourself. And that's the case with personal insurance too, because the more times you swap insurance, the worse your insurance score rating is, and you're going to pay more.
Yeah. I want to make one comment on, you made the comment about be careful to buy online. And just kind of why you said that and why I would even say that is important. Because most consumers, particularly, let's say auto insurance, particularly in the auto insurance space, most consumers are incredibly price sensitive, which it makes sense, especially in New Orleans. I think we have the most expensive auto insurance rates in New Orleans. There's a reason for that. People like to sue, and our courts are very, very generous.
Same with Michigan. Michigan's similar.
Yeah, and the courts are very, very generous to people when they sue their insurance companies. They're not friendly to insurance carriers. So what happens is people get price sensitive and they want a lower price, and they go online and they find a lower price. And oftentimes what happens is they're sacrificing coverage, and it's typically liability coverage. So liability is what's going to protect you if you get into a lawsuit. So if you accidentally, check a text and you rear end somebody, or your teenager starts driving and they're distracted, they get into an accident. Your liability is more important than your comprehensive and collision, the stuff that's going to replace your car. It's much harder to have cash to pay a $250,000 lawsuit than it is to replace a $40,000 car.
And not only that, if you hit somebody and kill them, don't you want their family to be taken care of? Right?
Well, you just took the breath out of this show, man.
Sorry.
Like, wow.
But
yeah.
And another thing too. So, and I like Next Insurance. We write with Next Insurance. There's
That's an online, right?
But they work through agents too.
Yeah.
I like Next Insurance. There's some situations where Next Insurance really helps people out. But if your business is any kind of just barely complex at all, Next Insurance policies are riddled with exclusions. Now, I do think the people behind Next are really smart, and they're actually working their way towards becoming their own carrier versus Next actually writes through someone else. If that doesn't scare you a little bit, their policies are riddled with exclusions. And I see there's these YouTube ads. Some of you guys have seen them with these contractors. It's like, I'm Kyle Stumpenhorse with da-da-da-da. What they've done is they've taken these influencers in the contracting world and basically paid them to do endorsements. I'm Kyle Stumpenhorse and I insure my business with Next Insurance. And I laugh because I'm like, dude, you have no idea how underinsured you are.
Is he a real contractor, Kyle Stumpenhorse?
Yeah, he is. They're all real. And so you buy these policies online because it's quick and easy, which is great. I think insurance is way too hard to buy. I like a lot of the things a lot of these companies are doing, but a lot of times you don't know what you're buying. You're insuring things incorrectly.
Yeah.
You do your home, it doesn't have wind, whatever. I'll shut up. I know you guys.
No, I was gonna say on that. That's the thing. Like insurance has this kind of like the stigma, like insurance agents. There's the stigma, like,
and we probably deserve it.
I had a mentor of mine in the financial space, and he always used to say, I have 2 insurance agents, so I know which one's lying to me. And that was his attitude. I'm like, they're not all lying to you. Maybe some are lying, but that's why I hire someone who you can trust, and then trust them. then trust them. That's in any profession. Hire your plumber, right? I want to hire a plumber I can trust. Hire a financial planner you can trust. Hire someone you feel is going to have your best interest at heart and give you advice that makes the most sense to you. Even if that advice is, hey, Bradley, you know what? I think you should actually call that other agent down the street because they specialize in unicycle, professional unicycle insurance.
I saw a clip the other day. I've been on this Ron White comedy binge lately. I love the comedian Ron White, and he's about to retire, and I actually missed him coming through. So that's part of why I've been on this binge. But it was an old joke from like 20 years ago, and he's talking about somebody stole his radio out of his car, and the insurance agent asked him, well, if you would tell us what kind of radio it is, we would know how much to write the check for. And he put something down, and the guy said, I don't think Rolex makes a radio. And he said, I took a puff of my cigarette and said, write the check, premium boy. And he said, they hate it when you call them premium boy. And I was like, I'm going to start doing that, premium boy.
Oh man, that's great.
Anyway, I know that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but
that's okay.
I had to get that off my chest. It was really bothering me.
Well, does anybody have anything else to say that is just like mic drop wisdom before we wrap up?
I'll say, I think you guys do a great job with the show, and then I'll shut up. You guys do a good job.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Appreciate that, man. I got guys like you to follow, man. So I will say this.
And I'm learning from the two of you guys because I'm still new at it.
You got a voice for radio though, man.
I just can't get him to show up, man. That's the only problem I have.
Dude, I wish I had that voice, dude. Like you and like James Jenkins and Scott, man, they have the voice, man.
Yeah,
I don't have it.
Now you've got me lost for words. So,
and by the way, when I say voice for radio, that doesn't mean I don't think you're good looking. You're very handsome, by the way.
I appreciate that one as well.
So oh my gosh. So if y'all are listening to this, I need you to go to the YouTube channel, watch the video, and I want you to comment on who you think is better looking, Xavier or Bradley.
Eric's self-confidence needs a boost, please.
No. Keep me out of it. I'm good. I'm good. I want to know who y'all think is better looking, Bradley or Xavier. But man, Brad, thanks for taking a couple minutes this morning to hang out with us and to hang out with our listeners. I can't wait to go back and listen. I learned so much from our guests and the things that they've learned or they wish they would have known about money, because it helps me give better advice to people.
Absolutely.
So it's really great that you took time to do this, man. Best of luck to you with all of your endeavors. If y'all like what y'all listen to, follow us on your favorite listening app. Y'all take care.